I hope all of you are doing great, and today is going to be slightly different compared to the usual training. No car talk, and the reason is because I will do a bit more talking today than I usually do during my sessions. And I'm thinking I will explain each movement that I'm going to train, so I'm still going to do my full workout routine. I'm just going to explain sort of the tricks I have regarding each of them, some tips I have that might help you, then also why I'm doing a certain exercise and sort of what's the benefits and why I sort of structure my training the way I do. So it's going to be a bit more sort of informational video regarding training, but it's going to be just around my normal workout routine. You get the point. So let's start off with front lever touch and some front lever pull-up combinations. That's going to be the sort of first thing we do. Then we're moving over to some more isolating work, and I will explain why. But let's jump on to the first exercise. The front lever touch. Let's start off with why I always start with doing this drill. And that is because it's the number one thing that's mostly related to my goal, which is to improve front lever pull-ups and front lever touch. For a long time, that has been my weak spot during competition, and therefore that has been sort of the main thing I've been focusing on for the past months. And starting off when I'm fresh, both mentally but mainly in the body, is to do the things that's closely related to my goal. And that's why I'm doing it first. And the reason why I'm even doing front lever touch, even though my sort of goal also is to improve front lever pull-ups, is because the top position is a crucial part in front lever pull-ups. When you're doing the pull-ups, you might be really strong in the dynamic part, in the hold, but if you're not comfortable up here, which I wasn't when I did train front lever pull-ups, I tend to do just rep them out, but I still wouldn't be able to always get a touch. And when now I've been getting better holds in the top position, that is also comfort zone. So I have a way easier time being in a front lever hold, and then I pull myself up into another position that my body is used to. So that's why I do put a lot of focus on the top hold. And hopefully that's going to pay off. I haven't had a competition after I've done this, but hopefully this means that during competition I can throw off the front lever pull-up touch more often and also do the front lever touch more clean, even though I do have some slight fatigueness from previous combos during the competition or whatever it may be. So that's really what I do during that's why I am training it and putting so much focus on it. So let's do one set, and then I will discuss a few tips I have regarding this skill. Not too bad, not too bad. Now, after I did my first set, let's discuss a few tips I have for the front lever touch, both for beginners, but of course also for the more advanced level. So first off, one thing I noticed was time and attention. That's what I've been trying for a long time, and I started off doing this one with resistance band a lot, just to be in the full touch, and there's a major difference also depending on how far away. So I did want to touch the bar a lot and really feel like I have that connection. Then if I train on this bar, it's going to be harder than if I do it on a thicker bar. Like in competition, usually the bar is slightly thicker. The range of motion then is slightly easier. And have that in mind as well if you're training on different setup. But either way, try to get high time and tension up here. That's also why I did a drop set now, because I felt like my normal hold was slightly too short. But for me to just be in this position, especially the connection with the upper body, that is crucial. Time and attention. For the grip, a lot of fast grip, a little bit of common sense, but both it helps with the leverage. It's easier and sort of a shorter range you need to hold. If you need to have it like this, the wrist positioning, it needs to be so damn high up, and this range of motion, that's hard to get. So to make it easier to actually hold it, I suggest doing some fast grip. And then as of, I think it was summer 2024, I did do a session in Spain with Christoph, and he taught me one thing about the front lever touch that sort of changed the way I thought about it. Because in normal front lever, I focus a lot on bringing my hips up. That is like the main goal, almost trying to arch, even though in reality it's really hard to do with arching, so you just end up doing it pretty clean. So that is my mindset for doing the normal holds. But for the front lever touch, when I started, I thought that was the same thing, just bringing my hips as far up as possible. But that didn't clean it up, and I always ended up having my chest too low, and in competition I would get less point than someone doing it clean. So I wanted to change that. And the tip Christoph gave me was to lock in the chest. not think that I should open up the chest, which I did think, because that is basically the retraction in front lever. But he told me to lock in the chest, bring your shoulders as far down as possible. This means activating the lats, not only for the sort of pulling movements, but actually getting your shoulders down. It's all about leverage, and the further down we can get our shoulder, the easier it's gonna be for our body. So squeezing that one downwards and chest closed. And this was the position that really changed it for the connection and eventually gave me a cleaner hold. And I think that pretty much wraps it. And that is the same even though you're doing tuck stuff, even though you train with resistance band, this connection is the same for all of them. And one thing to have in mind is that if you're training tuck, the only difference there is the leverage, but you're still lifting your full body even if you're doing progressions with touch. So tuck, front lever touch is really hard. You still need to pull a lot. Advanced tuck, really hard. Half lay, extremely harsh. So have that in mind as well. Those progressions are really good to perform because you're still lifting your full body, even though the leverage, of course, is different. But I think those were the main things. So let's do 2 more sets, see if I can keep it up. And I am most likely gonna do some drop sets just to get the time and attention slightly higher. Okay, so this was with the clean form. I'm gonna see if I can do the old Wales way just to give a bit more contrast. So then I would open up the chest. Now I'm of course really tired, but I hope you could see the difference in form. The last one, open up chest, which is not the right way of doing it, just makes it really hard to get it good positioning and alignment with the full body. Whereas the first one, you're compact, everything is just higher up, and that's what we want to have. Let's do 1 more set. There's like 2% difference between half lay and full. So almost a bit foolish to go for the half lay when the full one is dead. But one leg is different. At that point you do actually move the leverage point pretty close to the body, so it's easier. And then for me, with not massive legs either way, it does definitely do a difference. So if you are gonna do something and you're close to the touch with half lay, I can guarantee you, you are really close to the full one as well. Let's move on. Do some front lever pull-up reps. Not too bad, I don't think. Might, like always, the angle might be slightly off, but overall, 4 pull-ups, that's where I counted to at least, and then decent hold. And always the dilemma, how wide should you have it? The pull-ups, slightly easier to have tight, and then as soon as you do the actual hold, a bit more convenient to have wider grip due to the retraction and the engagement. Otherwise with close grip, like it's super hard to open up the chest for the retraction in the hold. Whereas like shoulder width apart, usually good measurements, and then easier to just activate it. Either way, let's do 1 more set, and I'm also gonna discuss sort of why I train it and then give a few tips. All right, now to the subject of why I'm doing front lever pull-ups. As I mentioned previously, front lever pull-ups was one of my major goals. And there was a period where I only did front lever touch. I didn't even train the pull-ups, even though that was my main goal. And that's because the touch, the top position, was my main weakness. And usually if you find the actual thing that is limiting you the most, the bottleneck in most cases, that is gonna be the major factor of improving your overall performance the most. So that's where I put my focus. But now that I gained more strength over the time, since I can do about like 3 or 4 reps front lever pull-ups pretty consistently, decent form, maybe not the perfect one, but most likely we never get there, I do incorporate it a bit more. Because at the end of the day, if you can train your major goal or things that simulate it the most, that is the best possible way. But sometimes you can't get enough time and attention, you might not be able to do a progression that is good enough for it. In those cases, you might need to change your training. But now I'm at the stage where I do see the benefits of actually doing the thing that I want to improve in. I think that makes sense. The same applies if I were to train this. I did use resistance band in the beginning just to bump up those reps, get cleaner forms, get longer holds, all of those stuff. And then eventually I got strong enough to do without any band, without any things, and can get enough time and attention, enough reps to have it be beneficial. So that's pretty much the structure. Let's do one more set and then I will give you my advice on this drill. Not too bad, pretty satisfied with that one. And usually for front lever pull-ups, I do get a bit more fatigue in between the sets, but managed to do 4. I don't know if the last one was a touch, but still, happy with them. So let's take some rest and then talk about the tips that definitely can make a major difference for your training. Let's start off when it comes to the actual training and progression. One thing that I've been finding, and also a lot of people have been having in common, I do coaching, and something that I find works for a lot of people is incorporating resistance band for the front lever pull-ups instead of just doing the progressions. And the reason is because the leverage makes a huge difference. You already know that front lever, it is a lot of leverage, your lats, they are pushing downwards, but when you're also in a pulling position, that leverage is even harder to get the engagement. So if you only train tuck front lever pull-ups, yes, it's the same weight that is moving, so your pulling strength gets really strong, but it's a major difference pulling here compared to pulling down here. So if you're only getting strength here, it's still a big gap between being able to do the full one. So therefore, taking a resistance band, preferably fasten it in a bar or something above you, so you do get the full help, the full range of motion, and then performing full half lay also works really good, but get that hip in the right position as the full front lever would be. That has really been a game changer and something that I do really recommend to a lot of people if you're training this or getting started to training with it. Then the grip might be pretty obvious, but I'm gonna mention it either way. False grip here is also pretty crucial. It is decreasing the leverage or the range of motion that you need to pull. For holds though, I am doing the combos, front lever pull-ups to hold. When I'm doing the hold, I do like to push my wrist downwards. This is because I then extend my leverage arm, make it easier to do the holds. But for the pulling, this decreased range of motion is worth a lot, especially if you want to bump up the amount of reps you're doing it with this grip. Big respect if you do it, but a big tip is to actually get the false grip in place. And then a sort of just mindset theory for the front lever or for the front lever pull-up is to focus on the hips being the leading factor. So there was a time when I would pull and I was thinking that my legs were the one doing the motion, but that sort of, it made the technique a bit off. So now when I'm doing the pulling, I am mostly focusing like my hip is the center of mass. It pretty much is, but that's also where my focus is going. So I want to make sure that my hip is the one doing the full range and then the rest of my body is just following. So I'm not focusing on my legs, anything like that. Of course, I focus on having them locked, straight, but my main goal is to get my hip from the hold to the top. And if I get full range there, I just know that the rest of the body is following because I am trying to keep a sort of aligned body. But main goal, focus on the hips and have that one as the thing you are putting focus on when it comes to motion. I think I said the same thing like 5 times over, but you should get the point. And I think those were the main tips. If I were to come up with something else, I will add it afterwards in the video. But let's do one more set and then we're continuing with Victorian. Definitely starting to feel that fatigueness. We will see. When it comes to Victorian, I have added it now because I am going to compete in a few months. But since this one is starting to show a lot of progress, it might be that I switch up and put Victorian in the beginning of sessions, since that's my main focus. Talk the talk, walk the walk. And of course, I do gotta live up to what I say, so that might be a switch for just a few future sessions. Today I am gonna do the tuck, Victorian and advanced tuck. I am gonna push the 2 advanced tuck, but might do tuck towards the end, and just focus on the retraction. This is one of these tips I will tell you now, but also after done the first set. If you get strong in retraction, get the chest up. It's a game changer. Because as soon as you don't have this one connected, it doesn't matter how strong the rest of the body is. Your body is gonna be maximum aligned with the bars, but most likely slightly under. And to have the clean Victorian, I think is a really underrated move. It's just such a nice skill, but it requires insane retraction strength. So scapular engagement, and that's what you get from tuck and advanced tuck as well. So this is one of those ones where I do really like going back to progressions and focusing on the basics, because that otherwise it's gonna bite me towards the end and not allowing me to get the perfect form, or close to perfection at least. Insanely underrated. Might also have to check the form before I say something, but it is harsh. I give all my power, all the power I have for the scapula, trying to get that sort of alignment right, and then literally just take from there. But it's one hell of a hard skill. I've had it in the past. I do have the full one when I'm fresh, but I want to have it with more perfection. And for having it in competition, that is also one thing, and it's way harder than just doing it in the trainings. You really gotta have it consistent, because maybe you've been doing a combo for like 30 seconds, you're pretty gassed out, and you still wanna get those points. You better have some left in the tank. Had a check and the form looked good, which is nice, because it felt good, and if it feels good and the form is off, that's when you start doubting yourself, and that is never good, especially not before a competition. But let me give you a few tips on the Victorian, because I did say why I'm training it mainly for competition. It's a crazy move and all of these factors, and I might add it in the beginning of the session, since that may sort of move towards being my main focus. Either way, for the tips, number 1, as I mentioned before, was the scapula. If you gain that scapular strength, you are gonna greatly benefit in the Victorian, and it's gonna be way easier to just have that foundation, and then if the core is the lacking factor, you can then train it. But if the scapula is the lacking factor and you just keep pushing it, you're still not going to be able to get those hips up. It's going to be impossible if just the sort of upper body isn't in the right spot from the beginning. So just have that super clear for yourself. Then I would say training with a resistance band is helpful as well for that last part. But if you do get this scapular connection, the legs sort of, if you do dragon flags, you train front lever normally, I don't think the core is going to be the lacking factor for you. Most of the time it will be the scapula. But if that would be the case, you can of course also train with resistance band, increase the holds, but that also sort of, it relies on you having some decent connection. Then for the mindset part, which I have mentioned for the previous ones, is to also think that you should push your shoulders as far downwards as possible. Activating the lats is a common theme here. Bring your shoulders close to the center of mass, because at the end of the day, the closer we are, the less away from the center of mass, the less leverage gravity has, the more leverage we have, but the easier it's going to be. And that ultimately leads to longer holds, better holds, and those things. So push them away, and in this case it also helps to think that you should press your head away from the body. So just extend as far as possible and get your back or head backwards. And then the last part, that's not really about the shoulder, but that is the positioning of our body. It should feel like you are pushing up your chest and leaning backward. A mistake I did for a long time was I thought that I needed to be sort of on this side of the bar. But truth is that the more I could still keep my arms locked and just move backwards, almost think like I should fall backwards, the easier it became. Because at the end of the day, I'm also at that point moving my weight further away, making it easier to hold. Unless I have all the weight on this side, it's going to be hard for leverage. So really, lean backwards, have locked arms, and don't be afraid of going backwards pretty much, because it will make it easier. So I think that pretty much sums it. And have good grip on the bars. Today my chalk is starting to go out, or I don't have a lot of chalk left. Otherwise I would like to chalk them up, just have solid grip with my arms. It helps for the holds as well. When you start falling down here, just really frustrating for the training. And it has happened a lot of times in competition for me, so it's really something I am against. But let's do 2 more sets, just of me doing the training, and see how well I can perform. I think we're done here. Let's move on. Personal favorite as of right now, weighted chin-ups. And I also know some of you are wondering about my equipment, so I've leave the link up here to all the equipment I'm using. It's from the same place, Coronation. I also have a discount code, Simon, for 10% off. So if you're looking for some equipment, either for front lever pull-ups, for handstand, parallettes, resistance bands, all of those things, chalk, something I will order pretty soon since mine is running out. All of those things you'll find up here. So check it out if it's something you are searching for. Let's move on. Pretty much last up, we have chin-ups or weighted pull-ups. I like to do 1 session chin-ups per week and 1 pull-up. So I just do 1 pull, I do chin-ups, the other one I do pull-ups, chin-ups, pull-ups, and so on. And the main reason I do it is because I enjoy it a lot. Just having some dynamic stuff in the end of a workout, not just only doing statics, I really think is enjoyable. Then being in the same position all the time, you just don't feel that powerful. Whereas doing weighted stuff, I do feel that sort of just eager, you get some light pump, just good way to wrap it up. But remember, I do have this in the end of the session. Since I'm an athlete in freestyle statics, that's my main goal. This is literally, I don't care if I'm a bit tired, I don't care if I'm a bit sore, I don't care if my reps are not on point. It's not my main focus. So that's why I have it in the end. But it definitely do apply, like you get some benefits from it. Not necessarily that your front lever hold is gonna be better, but in the top position, you are getting some activation, scapular activation, especially for the slightly higher reps. For the wider one, also good for the lats. You are getting a lot of strength there, and there are gonna be small things that will be beneficial from doing the weighted stuff as well. I'm not saying you only do weights, you are gonna get the front lever. That is far from the truth. But doing this is definitely a good complement, and at least definitely not gonna make my statics worse. Maybe if I gain insane mass, but then again, I'm training like 7 to 10 repetitions most of the time. I'm in that interval, building more towards strength, sometimes light volume, but mainly towards the strength part. And then again, this is one of those things I do because I enjoy it. So if you ever have something that you just really love in the gym, add it in your sessions. It's gonna guarantee that you will show up more times than, if you didn't have it. And that at the end of the day is gonna give you so much more results, that consistency. But I'm not gonna lie, it is pretty freaking sick doing weighted stuff. And I have considered maybe competing a few competitions in the upcoming year for the weighted stuff. Small teaser for y'all, but I do enjoy it a lot. The squats though, it's gonna take some time. I will need to quit the sort of elite level for the calisthenics freestyle part for that side. Or at least that's what I tell myself. But you won't see me doing heavy squats in a while, but probably a few heavy other lifts. Let's move on. Chin ups, 60 kg, aiming for 8 reps. I will be satisfied. Not a full rep on the 8th one, but I am happy. I am really happy. And for your information, I did weigh myself at 90.5 kilograms before I left the gym. That is with clothes, so probably slightly under 90 with body weight, but I'm at 90 kg, pretty damn heavy. And we have the competition in April. Now I'm not gonna gain more weight, but this is where I do wanna stay, push it pretty hard now up until India, the trip there, that's gonna be in the end of January. And then from India, the trip in India, I will reduce my weight slowly for competition. So that's pretty much the game plan. 2 more sets. And for this one, I am gonna be satisfied with 7 clean reps, I hope. Freaking good. And when it comes to tips, I have one major one for just increasing the amount of reps you're doing. And that's to get some short rest in between, especially if you're more towards the sort of short interval, pure strength type of person when it comes to training, which a lot of statics athletes are, including myself. I train pretty low time and tension, like we train static holds, 12 seconds, we're doing reps, maximum 10 reps. That's some pretty short numbers, low numbers. So when I'm doing this, I'm super strong in the first ones, but then I get pretty gassed out. And just having a few seconds, you take one extra swing, and then you gain enough strength to do one more. And then you take some extra breathers, just hang in there with the weight, breathe in, breathe out, breathe out, and then do one more. Usually you can get up maybe like 1 or 2 at least extra, depending on the weight, but definitely a tip I recommend to just bump up the numbers a bit. And one more tip also for pull-ups, chin-ups, all of these things, is to have the dip belt or the rope or chain, whatever you're using. I would recommend rope though for the clothing. They are saved a lot of times. The chain usually tend to rip your clothes. And after it happened once, you get pretty mad. So strongly recommend a rope. Either way, the length is super important. If you have the weight close up to the body, this means that you're moving the center of mass pretty far high up, and also increase the chance of you starting to get some light swing. And the movement your body starts to swing, which is pretty likely in the pull-ups, you are moving away from the bar, you're having a lot of weights in momentum. And moving energy, waste of energy, because at some point you are gonna have to sort of counteract that momentum, or the timing, things are gonna get off. So if you have the weight further down, which means a longer rope, this allows your body to still move, but since there are a rope, there's going to be a sort of a delay. So you can have the weight pretty still, even though your body is slowly moving outwards, inwards, as you're moving the body or doing the actual pull-up. And this allows the weight to basically only move up and down, which is what we want. We don't want the weight to move forward and backwards on the bar. That is wasted. So that's also a big tip. Put the weights a bit further down. Sums it up pretty well. Definitely starting to feel it. That was barely 7 reps. And that is pretty much gonna be a wrap. And if you enjoyed this style of just teaching and me spreading more knowledge, make sure to hit the like and write in the comments as well if you want another video just like this one, but for planche training / push. And sort of let me go through that session as well. And I also strongly recommend you to join my calisthenics masterclass. It's a free platform where I do a lot of introductions to programs. I teach a lot of stuff for front lever. We have a big community, like 1,900 people as we're speaking, where everyone just engaging, we ask questions, we help each other out, and it's really insane to see that one grow. So jump on it and let's make 2025 the greatest year for calisthenics. With that being said, I will see you guys in the next one. Choo-choo!